The diner fell silent as the manager's voice cut through the air. "Sir, we don't serve your kind here." The weathered man in the faded jacket didn't argue, just nodded once and turned to leave. Nobody noticed the slight bulge beneath his shirt, the metal that had cost him everything to earn. Nobody except the young waitress who glimpsed something gold as he turned, something that would change everything in the next 5 minutes. The morning had started like any other at Cole's Diner, a small establishment just outside Camp Lejeune in Jacksonville, North Carolina. The smell of bacon and coffee filled the air, mixing with the soft chatter of the early breakfast crowd, mostly locals who had been coming here for years. Ray Morgan stared at the diner from across the street, hesitating before crossing. At 68, his body carried the weight of decades of service, weathered hands, a slight limp from an old injury, and eyes that had seen more than most could imagine. His faded Marine Corps jacket had seen better days, much like Ray himself. 3 tours in Vietnam, followed by deployments to countless global hotspots, places most Americans couldn't pronounce, let alone find on a map. After 40 years, retirement hadn't come easy. The nightmares still came, and civilian life remained an ill-fitting suit. But this morning, he had a purpose. His grandson's birthday was tomorrow, and the boy had been begging to meet at the best breakfast place in town, Cole's Diner, according to the locals. Ray wanted to check the place out first, see if it was appropriate for a 10-year-old celebration. Old habits die hard. Reconnaissance was in his blood. What he didn't know was that Cole's had changed hands 6 months ago. The new owner, Derek Cole, no relation to the original family, had brought his own views with him from upstate. As Ray pushed open the glass door, the little bell announced his arrival. A few heads turned, then quickly returned to their conversations and meals. He made his way to the counter, where a young woman, Jenny, according to her name tag, offered a warm smile. "Coffee to start, sir?" she asked, already reaching for a mug. Ray nodded, settling onto a stool. "Thank you, miss. And maybe I could see a menu? Thinking of bringing my grandson here tomorrow for his birthday." Jenny's smile widened as she handed him a laminated menu. "How old will he be?" 10, Ray answered, a rare smile softening his weathered features. "Wants to be a Marine like his grandpa someday." That's when Derek emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a cloth. His eyes narrowed at Ray's jacket with its faded Marine Corps emblem. Ray didn't notice, busy studying the children's menu options. "Jenny, order up for table 6, Derek called, his voice sharp. As Jenny hurried away, Derek approached Ray, his posture stiff. "Help you with something?" he asked, no trace of welcome in his tone. Ray looked up, still smiling slightly. "Just having some coffee. Checking your place out. My grandson's birthday is—" "We're pretty busy," Derek cut him off, glancing around the half-empty diner. "Don't really have time for people just sitting around." Ray's expression shifted slightly, confusion crossing his features. "I'm planning to order breakfast. Just wanted to see if this would be good for my grandson's party tomorrow." Derek folded his arms across his chest. "We don't do parties, and we're fully booked tomorrow." The diner had grown quieter, conversations dipping as people began to notice the tension at the counter. Ray straightened slightly, his military-bearing automatic after decades of service. "I see," he said, his voice calm but clipped. "May I at least finish my coffee?" Derek looked directly at him now, his voice dropping but still audible to nearby tables. "Sir, we don't serve your kind here. Military brings trouble. I had to kick out 3 drunk Marines last week. Not dealing with that again." The words hung in the air like a physical thing. Jenny froze mid-step, coffee pot in hand. Several customers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Ray's face remained impassive, a skill learned through years of combat and crisis. He reached into his pocket, placed a $5 bill next to his barely touched coffee. "Understood," he said quietly, rising from the stool. No argument, no protest. The dignity with which he carried himself made Derek's words seem even harsher by contrast. As Ray turned to leave, the medal he always carried, tucked inside his shirt on a chain around his neck, shifted slightly. Jenny, standing closest, caught a glimpse of gold and blue ribbon as the morning sunlight from the window struck it. Her eyes widened in recognition. Ray had nearly reached the door when Jenny's voice rang out. Sir, wait, please. She hurried after him, ignoring Derek's sharp look. Is that what I think it is? Ray paused, confusion crossing his features. Around your neck, sir, Jenny clarified, her voice rising with emotion. Is that a Medal of Honor? The diner fell completely silent. Derek's face drained of color as Ray slowly reached into his shirt and pulled out the medal that hung on a chain next to his dog tags. He didn't display it proudly. He simply held it in his palm, almost apologetically. My husband was in the Marines, Jenny explained, her voice soft but carrying in the silent diner. He made sure I knew what this meant. She turned to Derek, her eyes flashing. Do you have any idea what someone has to do to earn this? It's the highest military decoration in our country. Derek stood frozen, his earlier confidence evaporating as the implication sank in. He had just denied service to a Medal of Honor recipient, a living legend, someone who had performed acts of valor beyond imagination. One of the older customers, a man in his 70s, slowly stood up from his booth. Son, he addressed Derek, his voice shaking slightly. I serve in Korea. Never met a Medal of Honor recipient in person. There aren't many of them alive. He turned to Ray. Sir, it would be an honor if you'd share your story with us. Ray shook his head gently. I was just doing my job, like anyone else would have. The humility only made the moment more powerful. Another customer had pulled out his phone, quickly searching online. Holy, you're Raymond Morgan. You're the Marine who carried 3 wounded men through enemy fire in Vietnam. I read about you in history class. Derek's face had gone from pale to ashen. The man he had just refused service, had insulted to his face, wasn't just any veteran. He was a living part of American military history, a man whose courage had been recognized at the highest level. Sir, Derek finally managed, his voice barely above a whisper, I've made a terrible mistake. Please, your breakfast is on the house. Your grandson's party too. Anything you want. But Ray simply shook his head. Thank you, but I think I'll find somewhere else. His words carried no anger, no resentment, just quiet dignity. As Ray turned to leave again, customers began to stand, one by one, not in protest, but in respect. A spontaneous garb honor formed, faces solemn with admiration. That's when Derek rushed forward, blocking the door. His earlier arrogance had vanished, replaced by genuine remorse. Please, sir, I was wrong, inexcusably wrong. I let a few bad experiences cloud my judgment. I forgot what the uniform means, what people like you sacrifice for people like me. Ray studied the man's face, searching for sincerity. After a long moment, he spoke. It's not about the medal. It's not even about me. It's about respecting what others have given for this country, whether they have medals or not. Derek nodded, shame evident in every line of his face. I understand that now. And I promise you, no service member will ever be turned away from my door again. Please, give me a chance to make this right. The diner remained silent. The collective breath held as they waited for Ray's response. Finally, Ray gave a single, measured nod. Tomorrow, 10 a.m., my grandson wants chocolate chip pancakes shaped like stars. Can you manage that? Derek's relief was palpable. Yes, sir. The best chocolate chip star pancakes he's ever had. The next morning, when Ray arrived with his grandson, they found the diner decorated with American flags. Every customer stood when they entered, and Derek, humbled and forever changed, personally served the chocolate chip pancakes, shaped like 5-pointed stars, just as promised. The story of the Medal of Honor recipient, and the diner spread through Jacksonville like wildfire. Derek kept his word. Military discounts became permanent, and a wall of honor was established, featuring photos of local service members. As for Ray, he remained unchanged, a quiet hero who never sought recognition, who carried his medal not as a badge of pride, but as a reminder to friends who never came home. So what would you do if you were in Derek's position? Would you have the courage to admit your mistake and make things right? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, sometimes the most important medals are the ones we can't see. the invisible scars and sacrifices carried by those who served. Hit like and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the true meaning of honor.